Ellie, we're talking about a person's life. How could you do something like this? Why? I forgot. Simple as that. The same way your mother forgot to give me the address for the party. At the family gathering, my mother-in-law never gave me the address. I had to shiver for 2 hours under a wind that cut like razors. The call came when the party was already over. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ellie. Honey, it completely slipped my mind to let you know. The instant I heard those words, I made a decision. I canceled my mother-in-law's credit cards, suspended her prescription deliveries, and changed the locks on the house. My mother-in-law was horrified. How dare you do this? The Arctic wind, sharp as steel, whipped across my face like 1,000 tiny blades. I had been standing in the middle of Daly Plaza in Chicago for 2 hours exactly. My phone's screen read 5:47 p.m. The outside temperature was 26 degrees Fahrenheit. My fingers were so frozen I could barely hold my phone. In the group text named The Happy Millers, the last message was from 10 a.m. Family get-together today. Don't miss it. There was no time or place. 2 hours earlier, I had called my husband, Jake Miller. Honey, where is the family party? There's no address in the group text. On the other end of the phone, a chaotic blend of noise and laughter buzzed. Jake's response was garbled. Oh, Mom didn't send you the address? Hang on. We're at Shoot. The reception is terrible here. The call dropped. I called back, but it went straight to voicemail. The freezing wind seeped through my cashmere coat. I tightened my scarf, but I couldn't feel my feet anymore. People crossing the plaza walked quickly, taking short, hurried steps. A few shot me a compassionate glance before rushing on their way. I wanted to sit somewhere, but the benches were coated in a thin layer of frost. My phone vibrated softly. I pulled it out in a hurry, but it was just a spam text. That was my position in the Miller family after 5 years. The daughter-in-law who could be forgotten at any moment. 5 years ago, when I married Jake, I thought I had found love. He was attentive and promised he would make me happy. I left my position as a chief creative director with a $150,000 annual salary to help with the family business. I leveraged my contacts to land the Millers' 3 major projects, and with my design vision, I completely revamped their product line, tripling the company's profits. But what did I get in return? The increasingly frequent reprimands from my mother-in-law, Carol Miller, the blatant jabs from my sister-in-law, Lauren Miller, and the harsh reality that in that house, I would always be an outsider. The phone rang again. This time it was my mother-in-law, Mrs. Carol Miller. With trembling hands, I pressed the button to accept the call. Hello? Oh, Ellie. On the other end, I could hear my mother-in-law's cheerful voice, with the clinking of plates and a constant murmur in the background. I'm sorry, honey. It totally slipped my mind to let you know. The party's almost over, so you don't need to come. The wind howled. I wasn't sure if my voice was coming through clearly. Carol, I've been waiting outside for 2 hours. Oh, for heaven's sake, you should have just gone home. With this cold, what are you doing waiting out there? There wasn't a hint of regret in her voice. Oh, by the way, come over early tomorrow morning to help with the deep clean. Christmas is coming up, and there's a lot to do around the house. I said nothing. Ellie, can you hear me? Tomorrow at 8 a.m. Don't be late. I took a deep breath of the frigid air. An icy blade stabbed my lungs. Carol, do you have any idea what the temperature is today? What? Well, I have to go. We're about to cut the cake. You get inside and warm up, get some rest. The call ended. I stared at my phone's screen until it went dark. The clock on the plaza rang 6 times. Its deep chime spread through the frozen air. I looked up and saw the city's neon lights flicker on, one by one. Under each of those lights, there would be a warm home, but I was standing here like an abandoned fool. For 5 years, I had handled all the household chores. Every morning, I was the first one up to make breakfast for the whole family and the last one to bed at night. My mother-in-law's blood pressure pills, my father-in-law's vitamins, my sister-in-law's cosmetics, my husband's suits and ties, everything passed through my hands. The Miller family relatives called me first for anything, from wedding preparations to childcare. I spun relentlessly like a top, but I hadn't earned an ounce of respect in that house. Last week, after several sleepless nights due to a project deadline for the company, I woke up 10 minutes late. My mother-in-law stood in front of my bedroom door and lectured me for half an hour. I don't know what bad luck this family has to have brought in such a lazy daughter-in-law. The day before yesterday, my father got sick and had to be hospitalized. When I said I was going to take care of him for a few days, my mother-in-law responded coldly, "You're part of this family now. Don't bring your family's problems into our house." Yesterday, at the department store, I bought her a $600 cashmere sweater as a birthday gift. She glanced at the price tag and snapped, "And you expect to impress me with this?" A tear rolled down my frozen cheek, but I didn't wipe it away. I had to remember this feeling, this bone-chilling cold, this humiliation of being completely ignored. I took out my phone and opened my banking app. The main company account for Jake's business was in my name. Thanks to my excellent credit history, it had been easier to secure the loan. Account balance, $550,000. I tapped transfer and entered my personal account number. Amount, $550,000. Fingerprint confirmation. Transfer complete. Next, I opened another app, the recurring delivery service for my mother-in-law's blood pressure pills. I canceled all orders and deleted the shipping information. Finally, I sent a text message to a locksmith. As we agreed, 8 p.m. tonight, please. Once everything was done, I hailed a cab. "Where to?" asked the driver. I gave him the address of the condo I lived in with Jake, the condo my parents had bought for me, paid in full, before I got married, and that was deeded solely in my name. Through the window, the city lights blurred past. Looking at this city where I had lived for 30 years, I suddenly realized I had lost myself. The taxi stopped in front of the building. I paid and got out. I looked up at our 12th floor unit and saw the light was on. Jake must be home. It made sense. The party was over. I got in the elevator and pressed the button for the 12th floor. My reflection in the elevator mirror was pale, but my eyes held a determination I didn't recognize in myself. 5 years of marriage. I had given everything. But in return, I only got 2 hours of waiting in a cutting wind and a casual. It slipped my mind to let you know. It was over. Asterisk, ding. Asterisk. The elevator doors opened, and I walked to the door of my home. I took out my keys but didn't open it right away. I took a deep breath. Inside was the life I was used to. The home I had painstakingly built for 5 years, and also the prison that had slowly made me lose myself. I turned the key and opened the door. On the living room couch, Jake was lying down, watching TV. When he heard the door open, he didn't even lift his head. "You're back. Mom said you didn't make it to the party. Did something happen?" I closed the door and left my purse on the entryway table. I was waiting outside for 2 hours. "Your mother didn't give me the address." Only then did Jake turn his head, frowning. "Well, you should have called me to ask. What are you doing waiting outside in this cold?" I looked at him. This man I had loved for 5 years suddenly seemed like a complete stranger. "I did call you, but you hung up on me." "Oh, right then. It was too loud. My finger must have slipped." He said it as if it were nothing. "By the way, Mom said to be there early tomorrow to help with the deep clean." Without answering, I headed for the bedroom. Ellie. Jake, sensing something was wrong, got up from the couch. "What's wrong with you? Are you mad just because she forgot to give you the address?" I stopped and turned to look at him. "Jake, if your sister Lauren had been left standing in that freezing wind for 2 hours today, could you say the same thing?" He was taken aback. He didn't expect me to ask something like that. "That's different. Lauren is family. And I'm not, right?" I interrupted him. "For 5 years, in your house, I've always been an outsider. Everything I've done for your family was taken for granted. Today, I finally get it. There are people, there are families that aren't worth sacrificing for." Jake's face changed. "Ellie, what nonsense are you talking about? The cold has gotten to your head." Ignoring him, I went into the bedroom and started packing a suitcase. "What are you doing?" He followed me in, and upon seeing my travel bag, his voice rose. "Ellie, stop being ridiculous." I stopped what I was doing and looked at him. "Jake, I'm giving you one last chance. Call your mother right now and tell her to apologize to me for what happened today. Jake looked at me as if I were crazy. Are you out of your mind? Make Mom apologize for forgetting to give you the address to a party? My heart turned to ice. All right. I continued packing. I only packed my ID, a couple of changes of clothes, and my laptop. Where are you going? Jake blocked my path. Ellie, I'm warning you, don't push your luck. If you walk out that door today, don't even think about coming back. Seeing his face full of anger, I suddenly started to laugh. Jake, I think you have it all wrong, I said, articulating each word. This condo is mine. The one who has to leave is you. He froze. Instantly, anger flushed his face. What are you talking about? This is our home, a marital asset. The down payment was paid by my parents, and the deed is solely in my name, I said calmly. Do you want me to show it to you right now? The color drained from Jake's face. It seemed he had never stopped to think about that detail. What are you trying to do with all this? Without answering, I took the suitcase out of the bedroom, stopped in the living room, and took one last look around the house. Every space I had decorated with care, every piece of furniture I had chosen with love. At 8 p.m., a locksmith is coming to change the locks, I said. Pack your things and be gone by then. Otherwise, I'll leave all your belongings with the doorman. Ellie, are you insane? Jake ran and grabbed my arm. Why are you doing this? We don't have to go to such extremes over what happened today. I shook his hand off. Jake, today wasn't the cause. It was just the final straw. I've been living like this for 5 years, and I'm tired. I dragged the suitcase toward the door. Wait, I heard Jake's voice behind me. The panic was obvious. Ellie, let's talk this through. Mom was wrong today. I apologize on her behalf, okay? It's too late. If, during those 2 hours in the cold, you had called me just once to ask where I was, if, when I told you I waited 2 hours, you had felt even a little bit of pain, if, just a moment ago, you had taken my side just once, but none of that happened. It's not necessary. I opened the door. We have nothing more to talk about. I left the house without looking back. The moment the elevator doors closed, I heard Jake break something inside the condo. I didn't cry. I just felt a strange sense of peace. The taxi took me back through the night. My destination this time was a small studio I had bought before getting married. It had been rented out until the tenant moved out last month. My phone buzzed. The screen read, *Carol Miller**. My little studio was in Wicker Park, a one-room apartment of about 450 square feet. Having been empty for a month, it smelled slightly of dust, but to me, it was the scent of freedom. I turned on my phone, and a flood of missed calls and text messages inundated the screen. 3 missed calls from my mother-in-law, 7 from Jake, and several from an unknown number. The group text, The Happy Millers, was in chaos. I opened the group. The most recent message was from my mother-in-law, Carol. Ellie, you've gotten too big for your britches. You won't even pick up the phone. Jake told me you left the house. Explain this nonsense to me right now. Below it was a comment from my sister-in-law, Lauren. Ellie, what's with the drama? Not only do you skip the party, but now you run away? Next, a rare message from my father-in-law, Arthur Miller. Ellie, whatever it is, come home and let's talk. Don't make a scene in front of everyone. I let out a laugh. In that house, the only one making a scene was me, the true outsider. I quickly swiped the screen and left the Happy Millers group. Then I blocked my mother-in-law's number, my sister-in-law's, and all the Miller family relatives. I only left Jake's number unblocked, not out of weakness, but to hear from his own mouth how the Miller family would react. Just after I left the group, Jake called. I answered in silence. Ellie, what the hell are you doing? Jake's voice was almost a shout. Why did you leave the group? And why did you block Mom? Is there a problem? My voice was so calm it surprised even me. Where are you right now? Come home immediately. That's not my home. I asked times you times to leave times my times home, the one I bought with my money. Is there a problem with that? On the other end of the phone, there was heavy breathing. Jake was trying to contain his rage. Fine. We'll talk about the condo later. Why did you empty the company account? Over $500,000. That's the company's operating capital. So you noticed. You're quick. That account is in my name, isn't it? And most of that money is from the down payments on projects times I times secured, I said calmly. Since I'm no longer part of the Miller family, I have to take back what's mine. What's yours? Ellie, don't forget you're still my wife, and those are marital assets. Then let's get a divorce, I said nonchalantly. When we divorce, I'll give you your share, down to the last cent, but right now I have to protect my rights. The other end of the line suddenly went silent. A few seconds later, Jake's voice softened. Ellie, stop this foolishness. I know Mom was wrong today. I apologize on her behalf. Come home, and let's talk this out calmly, okay? Again, an apology on her behalf, always on her behalf. Jake, do you remember what you told me when we got married? I asked. That you would protect me, that you wouldn't let me feel hurt for a single day. For 5 years, all the pain I've endured has come from your family, and you've always been on their side. He was speechless. Today, while I waited for 2 hours in a freezing wind, your mother dismissed it with a simple, "It slipped my mind." Do you know how I felt? My voice started to tremble, not with sadness but with rage. I felt like an idiot, like a complete stranger. I understand you're angry about today, but Mom didn't do it on purpose. She's just forgetful. Forgetful? I cut him off. Then how come she didn't forget to give the address to your sister? How come she didn't forget to give it to your father? Why, by coincidence, did she only forget me? Jake fell silent. Ellie, just come home first. Let's talk face to face. No, I said. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Let's talk about the divorce. Be out of my condo by 8 p.m. If you're still there after 8, I'll call the police. Ellie, you're going too far. His voice rose again. Do you think things will go well for you if you get a divorce? What are you going to live on? You haven't worked in 5 years. I laughed. He finally said what he was thinking. In the eyes of the Miller family, I was a housewife living off Jake, a woman who couldn't survive without them. That's none of your business, I said. Oh, and by the way, tell your mother her blood pressure pills run out tomorrow. I've canceled the automatic delivery, so make sure you tell her to buy them herself. What? You? Jake's voice was filled with disbelief. Ellie, we're talking about a person's life. How could you do something like this? Why? I replied. I forgot. Simple as that. The same way your mother forgot to give me the address for the party. Without waiting for his response, I hung up and turned off my phone. The world fell silent. Looking at the city's nightscape from the window, I felt an unprecedented sense of liberation. After 5 years, for the first time, I had decided to live for myself. I put some water on to heat in the kitchen and made myself some tea. I sat in the only chair in the room and started planning my future. First, tomorrow, see a lawyer to start the divorce proceedings. Second, reorganize my portfolio. I had been out of the job market for 5 years, but I hadn't lost my talent for design. Most of the Miller family's company projects were born from my hands. Third, reconnect with my old clients and contacts. 5 years is enough time for some to forget you, but I was sure there were still people in the industry who remembered the weight of the name Ellie Hayes. The phone vibrated again. It was a text message from the unknown number from before. This time, the content caught my attention. Ellie, it's David Vance, Jake's cousin. I heard about what happened today. I support your decision. The Millers have crossed the line. If you need any help, don't hesitate to call me. David Vance. I remembered him, a distant relative of the Miller family, a quiet programmer. At family gatherings, he always sat in a corner, and we had barely exchanged 10 words. I hesitated for a moment but didn't reply. However, I didn't block him either. Not because I trusted him, but because I was curious to know if there was really someone within the Miller family who could be on my side. I finished my tea and looked at the time. It was 7:50 p.m. The locksmith should have arrived at the building by now. I opened the security camera app I had installed in the condo. I had put it in secretly 6 months ago. Originally, it was to prevent burglaries, but who would have thought I'd be using it for this today? On the screen, Jake was pacing nervously in the living room. His suitcase was open on the floor, clothes thrown in haphazardly. My mother-in-law, Carol, was there too. She was pointing at the camera and shouting something, her face contorted with rage. She must have come to get him in person. I activated the audio function. How dare she do this to you? Does she have no fear of God? My mother-in-law's voice was sharp and shrill. I told you from the beginning, you can't give that kind of woman an inch. Look at her now, putting on airs. Mom, please, just be quiet. Jake's voice sounded exhausted. What do I do now? It looks like she's serious. Serious? Who is she trying to scare? What does she have left if she gets divorced? A woman over 30 who hasn't worked in 5 years. Who's gonna want her? My mother-in-law scoffed. You'll see. It won't be 3 days before she comes back begging on her knees. She transferred all the money from the company account to her personal account. What? My mother-in-law's voice went up an octave. That money belongs to our family. Call the police right now. Report her. That account is in Ellie's name. Jake's voice trailed off. Well, report her anyway. Seeing my mother-in-law's face twisted with anger on the screen, a bitter smile escaped me. After 5 years, for the first time, I saw this woman for who she really was, not with the affection of a mother-in-law, not through the filter of family, just a stingy, selfish, and controlling old woman. Asterisk. Ding-dong. Asterisk. The doorbell rang. Jake opened the door. It was the locksmith. Who called you? Get out of here right now! My mother-in-law's shriek was audible. The locksmith said something, but it wasn't clear. I saw Jake hold back his mother, who seemed ready to lunge at the man and exchange a few words with him. Finally, he nodded in defeat and started packing his suitcase in a hurry. By 8:10 p.m., Jake, dragging his suitcases, left my home alongside his mother, who was still spouting insults. The locksmith began to change the lock. I closed the camera app. I let out a long sigh. Phase 1, complete. Now, the real war began. I opened my laptop and started organizing my portfolio. The first file was the brand renewal plan I had developed last year for the Miller family business. The same plan that had increased their annual profits by 40%. The author of the file was listed as Jake Miller. At 7 a.m., my phone alarm woke me. The biological clock I had acquired over 5 years was stubborn. I no longer needed to get up early to prepare breakfast for the whole family. I stared at the ceiling for 3 seconds and realized I was free. I would no longer hear my mother-in-law's demanding voice saying, "Haven't you made the food yet?" Or my sister-in-law's complaints grumbling, "The soup is too watery today." Nor would I see Jake waiting for his iron shirt as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I got up without rushing and made myself a coffee. Standing by the window, I watched the city wake up. It was a landscape with the smell of life, different from the glamour of the Gold Coast. Steam from the diner downstairs dissipated into the cold morning air. A few students on their way to class early waited for the bus while reviewing their notes. The phone vibrated on the table. It was Jake. From last night until now, he had called me 17 times and sent over 20 text messages. I didn't answer and opened the most recent voicemail. Ellie, Mom is out of her pills. She woke up this morning dizzy and making a huge scene. Her blood pressure is up to 180. Please reactivate the medication delivery service. His voice was urgent, almost pleading. I took a sip of coffee. The bitter liquid slid down my throat. Blood pressure medication must be taken regularly. Stopping it abruptly can be dangerous. My mother-in-law had had hypertension for over 10 years and took one pill in the morning and another at night without fail. For the last 5 years, buying the pills, organizing them in the weekly pill box, and reminding her when to take them had been my responsibility. She used to tell her relatives, "My Ellie might not have other talents, but for these little things, she's very meticulous and attentive." Little things. I put down the coffee cup and sent a message to my old primary care physician. "Doctor, what happens if a hypertensive patient stops taking their medication for a day?" A few seconds later, the reply came, "It depends on the situation. If their blood pressure is usually well controlled, one day without medication might only cause a spike in pressure and dizziness. But if there's a risk of complications, it could be dangerous. Has something happened? Do you want me to make a house call?" "No, don't worry. Thank you." I put the phone down and drank more coffee. If something really happened to my mother-in-law, would I feel remorse? Perhaps, but another thought immediately surfaced. When she left me abandoned for 2 hours in a freezing wind, did she feel the slightest remorse? Another message from Jake. Please, I'm begging you, Ellie. Mom is old and she's not doing well. If you reactivate the medication service, we'll do whatever you say. Do whatever I say? I replied with 5 words. The pharmacy is open 24/7, and then I blocked him on all messaging apps. Immediately the phone rang. An unknown number. He must have borrowed someone else's phone. I answered in silence. Ellie, you heartless monster. It was my mother-in-law, Carol's voice. It was weak, but the rage was still intact. Are you trying to kill me? If anything happens to me, you'll be a murderer, Mrs. Carol Miller. I called her that for the first time. Northwestern Memorial Hospital is 2 miles from here, a 10-minute taxi ride. The neighborhood clinic is even closer. Do you want me to call an ambulance for you? On the other end of the line, there was a ragged breath, and then amidst a commotion, it seemed Jake snatched the phone from her. Ellie, don't do this. Mom is really sick. Just bring her the pills. After that, we'll do whatever you say, okay? Do whatever I say. It's too late. Jake, your mother is 62 years old, not 82. She has hands and feet, a son, a daughter, and a husband. I assume a little thing like going to buy some pills can be handled by the members of the Miller family, right? Do you really want to see someone die? I forgot. Simple as that, I said. The same way your mother forgot to give me the address for the party, I hung up the phone and blocked that number too. The phone went silent. I finished my coffee slowly and started planning my day. At 9 a.m., an appointment with my lawyer. At 2 p.m., a meeting with an old client. At night, I had to finish organizing my portfolio. At 9 a.m. sharp, I arrived at the lawyer's office. Attorney Shapiro was a college classmate, specializing in family law and divorce. Are you sure about your decision? Kate asked with a serious expression as she reviewed the documents. A divorce isn't easy, especially when there are assets involved, like in your case. Yes, I'm decided, I nodded. The sooner, the better. And is Jake agreeable? He will be soon. Kate raised an eyebrow. You're that confident? Instead of answering, I handed her a stack of papers. This is the certificate of my premarital assets, the down payment for the condo, the mortgage receipts. My parents and I paid for everything before the marriage, and after the marriage, Jake hasn't contributed a single cent to this house. But you lived together after getting married. Do you have proof? I opened my phone and showed her the bank statements. After we got married, all household expenses, including the mortgage, came out of my personal account. Jake's income went entirely to his personal expenses and his investments. The lawyer examined the statements carefully and then looked at me in astonishment. You paid the entire mortgage by yourself? Yes. He made all sorts of excuses. That he was investing in the business, that he had to entertain clients, I said calmly. And I believed him. The lawyer was silent for a moment, then sighed. Ellie, it's not the first time I've seen a case like yours, but I've never seen anyone so meticulously prepared. It's about survival, I said. If I don't look out for myself, who will? For the next 2 hours, we reviewed the inventory of assets in detail. Besides the condo, my personal savings, my investment products, and my contribution to the Miller family business. The issue of the company shares will be the most complicated, the lawyer said. You have to prove how much you contributed. Do you have evidence? I opened another folder. Here are all the emails, meeting minutes, design sketches, and revisions for all the projects I participated in as a consultant for the last 5 years. The biggest project the company landed last year, I managed it from start to finish, even though Jake's name was on the contract. The lawyer leafed through the thick documents, nodding continuously. This is very strong evidence. However, if we go to trial, it could take time. I know, I said. I'm very patient. When I left the lawyer's office, it was 11:30 a.m. I had 3 missed calls on my phone, all from unknown numbers. I didn't call back. Instead, I went into a corner cafe and ordered a light lunch. Just as I sat down, my phone rang again. This time, a text message. Ellie, it's David. Can we talk? It's important. I hesitated for a moment, then called him. Ellie. David's voice was low, and his surroundings were quiet. The Miller family is in an uproar. My aunt ended up in the hospital this morning. Her blood pressure shot up so high they have to keep her for observation. I gripped my phone tightly. But don't worry, it's nothing serious. It was just a scare, David continued. But everyone thinks you did it on purpose. My cousin Jake is looking for a lawyer. He says he's going to sue you for personal injury. That's to be expected. Thanks for the heads up. And also, David hesitated for a moment, they want to use your professional career against you. Since you haven't worked and have had no income for 5 years, they say you won't be entitled to much in the divorce, and they're trying to prove that you have mental health issues and are incapable of managing your assets. I smiled coldly. What a dirty tactic. Understood. Is there anything I can do to help? David asked. I work at a software company. Maybe I can help with something technical. I thought for a few seconds. Not for now, thank you, but I appreciate it. After hanging up and having lunch, I headed to my afternoon appointment. I was meeting with Mr. Davis. 5 years ago, he was one of my most important clients. When I left my company, he tried everything to dissuade me. Miss Hayes, 5 years and you haven't changed a bit, Mr. Davis said, smiling when he saw me. No, you've improved. Now you're more professional. You're exaggerating, Mr. Davis, I smiled. Not at all. The branding plan you prepared for us back then is still a case study in our company, Mr. Davis said. I heard you've been working at the Miller family business these years. What a shame. That small company was too small for your talent. Instead of answering, I handed him my portfolio, some of my work from the last 5 years and new ideas. Mr. Davis looked through the portfolio seriously, nodding his head. 30 minutes later, he closed the folder. Miss Hayes, coincidentally, we have a new project at the company, and we need a creative director. Are you interested? And the salary? Mr. Davis told me a figure. It was 1.5 times my salary from 5 years ago. I'll think about it. I didn't answer immediately. Mr. Davis seemed surprised. It's the best offer in the industry. I know, and I appreciate you valuing me, I said. But I have some personal matters to resolve, so I would need some flexibility in my schedule. The divorce? Mr. Davis asked shrewdly. I nodded. I understand, he said kindly. Let's do this. For now, you can join the project as a consultant, work with a flexible schedule, and when you sort out your affairs, we'll talk about a full-time position. How does that sound? Perfect. We shook hands, and as we said goodbye, Mr. Davis said suddenly, Miss Hayes, I don't know if I should say this, but the Miller family are not easy opponents, especially Mrs. Carol Miller. That woman has a very bad reputation. Be careful. Yes, I will be. Leaving the building, I checked the time. It was 3:20 p.m., 8 missed calls, all from unknown numbers, and 1 message. This time it was my father-in-law, Arthur Miller. Ellie, come home and let's talk. We're family. We can't let this go any further. A family. I deleted the message. On the way to my studio, I passed Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I saw Jake's car parked under the inpatient pavilion. I hesitated for a few seconds, then entered the building. I wasn't going to reconcile. I just wanted to see how nervous they were. The cardiology department was on the 3rd floor. I asked for the room number at the nurses' station, and without entering, I observed from a distance. The door to room 307 was open. My mother-in-law, Carol, was lying in bed, her face visibly pale. Jake was beside her peeling an apple, and my sister-in-law, Lauren, was playing on her phone. My father-in-law was not there. Mom, stop getting upset. If you get sick over this, you're the only one who loses. Jake offered her a piece of apple. And how am I supposed to not get upset? My mother-in-law's voice, despite her being a patient, sounded surprisingly strong. That ungrateful wretch. After the Miller family supported her for 5 years, she dares to do this to me. I'm going to kick her out with nothing but the clothes on her back. She won't get a single cent. Okay. The lawyer is handling everything. You just focus on getting better, Jake soothed her. Get better? I want to be discharged. I'm going to go to her house and give her a piece of my mind. Mom. Lauren also looked up. Lower your voice. We're in a hospital. So what? What's wrong with a mother-in-law scolding her daughter-in-law? My mother-in-law was getting more and more agitated. Jake, Listen to me carefully. Divorce her immediately. We can't have a woman like that in our house. When you divorce her, Mom will find you a better woman. Leaning against the wall at the corner of the hallway, I listened in silence. I had heard things like this countless times over 5 years, but always behind my back. This was the first time I was hearing it with my own ears. I laughed at the absurdity of it. In their minds, I really was a parasite who had lived off the Miller family for 5 years. When the nurse came out of the room, I turned around and left. When I reached the elevator, my phone vibrated. It was a notification from the bank. Jake had tried to withdraw money from the joint account but had failed. The day before, I had already transferred all the money from the account and frozen it. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped in. My expression in the mirror was terrifyingly calm. The phone rang again. This time it was Attorney Shapiro. Ellie, Jake's lawyer, called me. The lawyer's voice was a bit grim. He's proposing a mutual consent divorce, but the conditions are laughable. First, the condo goes to Jake. They claim you paid the mortgage together after getting married, but they don't acknowledge what you paid. Second, the company assets have nothing to do with you. Third, you give him half of your personal savings. Fourth, you pay for his mother's medical expenses and compensation for emotional distress. I laughed. How shameless. And what's your opinion, counsel? Obviously, it's ridiculous, the lawyer said. I think the best thing is to go straight to trial. With the evidence you've prepared, you have a very high chance of winning, although it will take time. I don't mind, I said, as I watched the elevator numbers descend. I don't care what people say. What's important is getting back what's mine. And that condo, especially that condo, I said, articulating each word, is the home my parents bought for me with their hard-earned money. I will not give up a single cent. As I walked out the main entrance of the hospital, small snowflakes began to fall from the sky. I held out my hand and caught one. I watched it melt in my palm. 5 years ago, on a snowy day like this, Jake proposed to me. He told me he would give me a warm home and that he wouldn't let me feel hurt for a single day. The snow was the same, but the people had changed. The phone vibrated again. This time it was a message from Jake, from a new number. Ellie, we need to meet alone to talk this through. This time, I promise I'll be on your side. I stared at the message for a long time, then replied, I choose the time and place. Wait for my call. I put my phone away and walked into the falling snow. I chose a coffee shop in the Harold Washington Library Center as our meeting place, a public, quiet location with security cameras. Most importantly, it was where we had our first date. Back then, Jake was a young man who blushed easily and had scoured every bookstore in the city to find me a first edition, out-of-print copy of my favorite book. He arrived 10 minutes early and took the table by the window where we always used to sit. When I entered the coffee shop, he jumped to his feet. His eyes were a mix of guilt, anxiety, and a faint hope that I wanted to ignore. Ellie. He pulled out the chair for me to sit. I didn't sit down and chose the seat opposite him against the wall, a seat that allowed me to have my back covered and see anyone who entered. Jake seemed momentarily baffled but sat down in silence. After 5 years of marriage, he must have been used to my place being by his side. What would you like to drink? The usual Americano? He asked. His voice sounded as if we were still dating. A lemonade, thank you. His expression hardened for an instant. I never used to drink lemonade because I didn't like the sour taste. After he ordered, silence fell between us. It was still snowing outside, but inside there was a warm atmosphere. The windows were slightly fogged up. Mom's already been discharged from the hospital. Jake broke the silence. The doctor said it's nothing serious, just from the agitation, he added, struggling to continue. She knows she was wrong too. She says she was really busy that day and it just slipped her mind. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't respond. I just looked at him. Jake, uncomfortable under my gaze, looked away. Ellie, let's just drop it, can we? Come back home. I promise nothing like this will ever happen again. I swear. Again. I slowly stirred the lemon slice in my glass. Jake, do you know what I was thinking while I was waiting in that freezing wind? He looked at me. I was thinking, what the hell have I gained in the last 5 years? My voice was calm. I left my job, cut ties with my friends, dedicated all my time and energy to your family, and what was the result? I was still the outsider who could be forgotten at any moment. Just me? What do you mean? I cut him off. In 5 years, your mother never once called me daughter. It was always her, as if I were a guest. Your sister could use my makeup and clothes as she pleased, but when I once used her lipstick, she threw a fit in front of the whole family, saying I was rude for touching other people's things without permission. Jake's lips moved, but no sound came out. And you, I looked him straight in the eye. Every time I had a problem with your family, you always said, "Mom's old, you have to understand her." Or, "Lauren is still a kid, you have to put up with it." And I always had to be the one to understand and put up with it. I didn't know it bothered you so much. He lowered his head. I thought you were fine. Because I didn't say anything, I was fine? I laughed coldly. Jake, how many times have I told you over the last 5 years that I wanted to be respected, that I needed my own time and space? Have you ever listened to me? He remained silent. The waiter brought the lemonade and the Americano. Jake, out of habit, glanced at my glass, and upon confirming it really was lemonade, his expression became even more complex. Ellie, he intertwined his hands on the table. It was his habit when he was about to have a serious conversation. But marriage is about adapting to each other. You have to understand each other. You can't just throw everything away over one mistake, don't you think? One mistake? I took a journal out of my purse and placed it in front of him. Read this. Jake, with a puzzled expression, opened the journal, and his face began to change color. It was my diary from the last 5 years, or rather, a log of incidents. On each page, the times the Miller family had ignored and hurt me were written in detail, asterisk, the 14th of March 2021. Prepared a birthday gift and cake for my mother-in-law, but she berated me for only knowing how to spend money, asterisk, the 9th of August 2022. Wanted to go take care of my dad after his surgery, but my mother-in-law stopped me, saying I was part of her family now, asterisk, the 22nd of November 2023. Company dinner. I was the project lead, but Jake prevented me from attending, saying I had to take care of household chores. Asterisk, the 5th of May, 2024. Asterisk, enough. Jake slammed the journal shut. His hands were shaking. You remembered everything? Of course. I took the journal back. I should have just smiled and accepted everything as you all wanted. Said, "It's okay, I'm used to it." He looked at me. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing me. Fear that I would actually leave. Ellie, can we fix these things? I'll fix them. I'll make Mom and Lauren change too. Just one last time. I looked at this man I had once loved deeply. 5 years of marriage had also left their mark on his face, small wrinkles around his eyes, his cheeks slightly fuller. I thought we would grow old together. I thought all the sorrows were a necessary part of marriage. Until those 2 hours of waiting in the freezing wind. Jake, I said, I called you here today not to reconcile, but to divorce. His face turned white as a sheet. I've seen the terms your lawyer proposed. I took out a piece of paper. These are mine. Jake took the paper with trembling hands. The promises that can't be kept must have been sincere at the moment they were made. My phone vibrated. It was Attorney Shapiro. Have you finished talking? As expected, I said. He's not going to accept easily. So what are you going to do now? The original plan. I looked at Jake, who was standing on the other side of the street. He was talking nervously on the phone, gesturing in the air amidst the snow. Initiate the trial proceedings and send all the evidence I've gathered to his lawyer. All of it? The lawyer was surprised. Isn't that too soon? No, I said. I have to show him I'm not bluffing. As I hung up and prepared to leave, Jake suddenly ran towards me. Ellie! He stood in my way. His eyes were bloodshot. Do you really have to take it this far? This far? I retorted. Compared to you trying to kick me out with nothing, who's gone too far? That was the lawyer's strategy. It wasn't my intention. But you didn't object, did you? I looked at him. Jake, it's been 5 years. I know you too well. You always let others do the dirty work. while you play the good guy. When your mother mistreated me, when your sister made my life hell, you stayed silent. Now, when the lawyer proposes absurd conditions, you stay silent again, and when I fight back, then you say it wasn't your intention." He couldn't answer. "Move," I said. He didn't move. "Jake," I said calmly, "if you don't move right now, I'll call the police. There are security cameras in front of the library and witnesses inside the coffee shop. Do you want to be on the news for harassing your ex-wife?" His face changed several times, and finally, he slowly stepped aside. I went down the stairs without looking back. A snowflake landed on my eyelashes and turned into a drop of water. It looked like a tear, but it wasn't. When I reached the corner, my phone rang again. This time it was David Vance. "Ellie." His voice was very low. "Jake just called me. He was asking if I knew where you were. I told him I didn't, but he didn't seem to believe me. Thanks for the heads up. And he might try to cause trouble for you," David said hesitantly. "A friend of Jake's has a private investigation agency, and I just heard your name in a conversation. Private investigators?" I frowned. "What does that mean?" "I don't know the details, but I have a bad feeling about it," David said. "Be careful these days. Don't go to secluded places alone." "Okay." After hanging up, I stood on the sidewalk, watching the cars go by. Private investigators, threats. "Jake, you're becoming more and more childish." I hailed a cab, and instead of going to my studio, I went to the police station. At the public service desk, I briefly explained the situation. I said I felt my safety might be in danger and I wanted to file a report. The officer on duty took down my information and gave me a case number. "If you notice anything suspicious, call immediately," the officer warned me. "Yes, I will." When I left the police station, it was already getting dark. The city lights amidst the snow seemed especially warm and, at the same time, lonely. I opened my phone and scrolled through my contacts. For 5 years, I had almost never been the first to call my friends. Because of the Miller family, I had become a deserted island. My finger stopped on a name. Sophia Reed, my best friend from college. 5 years ago, we had a heated argument because I was defending Jake, and we had lost touch since then. I hesitated for a long time, then finally pressed the call button. The phone rang 3 times, and then connected. "Hello," a familiar but somewhat hesitant voice. "Sophia," I said. "It's me, Ellie." There was a silence of a few seconds on the other end. Suddenly, Sophia's voice rose. "Ellie, you're still alive? 5 years without a single call? I thought you were dead." I laughed, but the tears started to fall. "I'm sorry. Is 'I'm sorry' supposed to fix everything?" Sophia's voice was also choked with emotion. "Where are you now? What happened? Why do you sound like that? I think I'm getting a divorce." "What?" Sophia shouted. "Where are you?" "I'm coming to get you." "No, don't worry." "No way," Sophia interrupted me. "Send me the address." 30 minutes later, Sophia burst into my small studio. I hadn't seen her in 5 years. She had cut her hair and seemed more confident, but the look in her eyes as she watched me was still the same as back then, the look of someone who was always on my side. "Tell me everything. What happened?" She took off her coat and handed me the takeout she had brought. "First, eat. We'll talk while you eat." That night, I told her everything. The 5 years of sorrow, the wait in the freezing wind, the decision to divorce. Sophia's expression grew harder and harder. When I finished my story, it was 1 a.m. Sophia was silent for a long time, then spoke. "You did the right thing." She came over and hugged me. "Ellie, you should have done this much sooner." That night, Sophia didn't leave. We slept in the same bed, just like in our college days. I couldn't sleep. The snow had stopped, and the moonlight streamed through the window, casting a cold light on the floor. I picked up my phone and sent a message to David Vance. "Thanks for the heads up. Could I ask you for a favor, if it's not too much trouble?" A few minutes later, the reply came. "What favor?" "I'd like to know the content of the conversations between Jake and his detective friend," I wrote. "I don't want anything illegal, just to know if there's any way to get recordings or conversation logs." This time, the reply took longer to arrive. "I'll try, but do you really want to go this far? It could be dangerous. The situation is already dangerous, I replied. I'd rather make a move than wait to be attacked. All right, David replied curtly. The next morning, I was woken up by the sound of Sophia making breakfast. The smell of fried eggs wafted from the kitchen, and I could hear her off-key humming. You're up, she peeked her head in. Come on, take a shower, the food's ready. I sat on the bed in a daze for a moment. For 5 years, I was the one bustling in the kitchen every morning. My mother-in-law complained that the soup was watery, my sister-in-law that the toast wasn't crispy, and Jake always rushed me with a, "Come on, hurry up, I'm late." And now, I was in bed, and someone was making breakfast for me. What are you doing? Not eating. Sophia came out with a plate. Let's see if my culinary skills have gotten worse or not. I took a shower and sat at the small table. It was just simple fried eggs with toast and milk, but it tasted warmer than any feast. What are your plans for today? Sophia asked. I'm going to see some old clients, I said. If I've decided to start over, I have to lay the groundwork. Sophia nodded. Do you want me to come with you? No, don't worry, I smiled. But I will ask you for a favor. Name it. Find me an office, I said. Mister. Davis has given me a project, and I need a proper workspace. And I don't want to stay here. This studio had served as a temporary refuge, but it was too small and easy to find. Sophia's eyes lit up. What a coincidence! An office space just opened up right below my company. Great location, top-notch security, and most importantly, it's close to me. She took out her phone and showed me some photos. 500 square feet, south-facing. It's already furnished, you just have to move in. The rent is $5,000 a month, and the security deposit is 3 months' rent. I know the owner well. I'll try to get you a discount. I looked at the photos and felt a warmth in my chest. This was a friend. After 5 years, with just one call, she was still willing to solve everything for me. Perfect. I'll take it. After breakfast, Sophia went to work, and I started preparing for my meetings. At 10 a.m., I arrived at an office building in the financial district. I was meeting with Mr. Peterson, the founder of a tech startup. 5 years ago, I had secured his first angel investment. Miss Hayes, Mr. Peterson greeted me enthusiastically. Long time no see. Call me Ellie, please. I'm not Miss Hayes anymore. I smiled and shook his hand. In my heart, you'll always be Miss Hayes, the one with the Midas touch. Mr. Peterson escorted me to his office. I heard you've been at the Miller family business. What a pity. How could such a small temple house a deity as great as you? After the pleasantries, I got straight to the point. Mr. Peterson, I'm going to open my own studio. My main business will be brand design and strategic consulting. If you need anything, I'd like you to give me an opportunity. Mr. Peterson leaned back in his chair and looked at me. Ellie, to be honest, I really need you. We're preparing for our next round of funding and need a complete brand overhaul. But I need you to assure me of one thing. Can you dedicate all your time and energy to us? I heard you're in the middle of a divorce, I said calmly. There will be no family matters interfering with my work. Mr. Peterson's eyes lit up. Really? That's great. For the next hour, we discussed the project details, and as we said goodbye, Mr. Peterson handed me a letter of intent. Ellie, I trust your ability. If you accept this project, it's yours. Leaving Mr. Peterson's company. I stopped in the elevator. My reflection in the mirror showed flawless makeup and attire, and a firm gaze. It seemed the Ellie Hayes who had taken the world by storm 5 years ago was back. My phone vibrated. It was David Vance. Ellie, can you talk? I found a quiet place and called him. I got something. David's voice was low. Last night, Jake and his detective friend were discussing what to do with you. I got the recording. My heart raced. What does it say? Nothing good, David said. They were going to have someone follow you, take secret photos to blackmail you. If you didn't give up your financial claims, they would threaten to release the photos. I gripped my phone tightly. The tips of my fingers turned white. And what else? David continued. Jake's lawyer is looking for an illegal private investigator to dig up dirt on you. I don't have any dirt. If there isn't any, they'll make it up, David sighed. Ellie, you have to be very careful. Those people are capable of anything for money. Can you send me the recording? Yes, but promise me you won't make it public unless it's strictly necessary. I didn't get it through legal means either. I know. Thank you, David. You're welcome. He hesitated for a moment. The truth is, I've always thought the Miller family should apologize to you. Since you married my cousin, I knew you weren't the person they said you were. I was surprised. What did they say about me? That you married for the Miller family's money? David's voice trailed off. That your family wasn't well off and you had married above your station. I smiled bitterly. When I married Jake, my salary was $150,000 and I had my own car and savings. In contrast, the Miller family business was in crisis. I helped them overcome that crisis with my contacts and my skills, but in the end, I was the one who had married above her station. I've sent the recording to your email. They might already know where you live. Understood. After hanging up, I immediately checked my email. The recording was 10 minutes long, not very long. I put on my headphones and pressed play. Jake, we have to teach that woman a lesson. She's gotten way too arrogant. A man's rough voice. Relax, boss. Leave it to me. I'll get a couple of guys to follow her. We'll take some photos at the right moment, and she won't make a peep again. Jake, we have to be careful. She's no fool. Man, no matter how smart she is, she's still just a woman. You'll see, with a few photos in hand, she'll do whatever we say. Not only will she not get anything, but she'll have to pay us. Jake, if this goes well, I'll reward you generously. Hey, no problem, boss. Between us, the recording ended there. I was in the busy lobby of a building, but I felt my whole body freeze, not from fear. My heart sank as I realized the man I had shared a bed with for 5 years had tried to set such a vile trap for me. I took a deep breath. I backed up the recording to the cloud and called my lawyer, Ellie. Kate, I need to request a restraining order, I said. Jake is threatening my safety. I briefly explained the content of the recording. The lawyer was silent for a few seconds. Is the source of this evidence legal? The source doesn't matter. What matters is the content, I said, and they might be following me right now. All right. I'll request it from the court immediately, the lawyer said, but it will take a little while to be issued. Tomorrow, at the earliest. You have to be very careful today. I know. After hanging up, I checked the time. It was 2 p.m. I had to see another client. I hailed a cab on the street. I purposely chose a ride share with a camera and audio recording. As I got in, I paid the driver extra and said, Sir, if anyone asks about my destination, please don't tell them. The driver was a middle-aged man. He looked at me in the rearview mirror and asked, Miss, is there a problem? A family matter. Understood, the man nodded. Don't worry, our company policy strictly prohibits disclosing passenger information. The car started, and I carefully watched the cars behind us. Sure enough, a black sedan was following us from the building. They had finally arrived. I wasn't scared. On the contrary, I calmed down. I took out my phone, activated the recording function, and started recording the car behind us. Sir, excuse me, could you slow down a bit and drive around the block? I said. I want to confirm if the car behind me is following me. The driver also noticed the situation, and his expression hardened. I'll call the police. No, let's get evidence first. The driver skillfully made several turns, and the black sedan followed us the whole time. I clearly recorded the car's license plate and the profile of the driver wearing sunglasses. 20 minutes later, the car stopped in front of my second client's company. I didn't get out immediately and said to the driver, Sir, excuse me, could you wait here for 5 minutes? I just have to sign a document and I'll be right back. I'll pay you double. All right, be careful. I entered the building, and instead of going up, I went down the emergency staircase to the underground parking garage and exited through another door. 5 minutes later, I reappeared on the street and hailed another taxi. Sir, to the police station, please. At the police station, I presented the recording and the video from the car's camera and formally filed a report. The officer who attended to me was Inspector Torres, a veteran in his 40s. He listened to my statement, checked the evidence, and looked at me with a serious expression. Miss Hayes, the evidence you've presented is very significant. Inspector Torres said. "We will begin the investigation immediately, but during the investigation, you must be very careful about your safety. I've requested a restraining order. That's not enough." Inspector Torres thought for a moment and said, "Let's do this. I'll contact your local precinct to increase patrols around your residence. You also take extreme precautions and, as much as possible, don't walk alone. Thank you." When I left the police station, the sun was setting. I didn't go straight to my studio, but went to a department store to buy some clothes and necessities. Then I headed to Sophia's place. What happened? Sophia opened the door, and seeing the bags I was carrying, her face changed. "I'm going to need your hospitality for a few days." I briefly explained what had happened today. After hearing me out, Sophia's face turned white with rage. "Jake, that bastard. I'm not going to stand by and do nothing." I stopped her. "I've already reported it to the police. The law will take care of it." "The law?" Sophia scoffed. "The law is too slow. With people like that, you have to give them a taste of their own medicine for them to learn." "Sophia," I looked her in the eyes. "Listen to me, please. I have a plan." Sophia looked at me for a long time and finally sighed. "All right, I'll listen to you, but promise me you'll tell me everything. No more keeping secrets. I promise." That night, I slept in the guest room at Sophia's house. I got into bed but couldn't sleep. My phone lit up. It was a message from David Vance. "They've realized the recording is missing. They're investigating who took it. Be careful," I replied. "Thanks. You be careful too, David." A few minutes later, another message from David. "I don't know if I should say this, but I think Jake is having an affair." I froze when I read the message. "How do you know?" "I saw a conversation with this woman on his phone, very affectionate. It looks like they've been together for about 6 months. 6 months. While I was working like a dog for the Miller family, while I was making him breakfast every morning and waiting up for him late at night, while I was bending over backward for his parents, he was already whispering words of love to another woman." I laughed at the absurdity of it. 5 years of dedication had not only been repaid with contempt, but also with betrayal. "Do you have evidence?" I asked. "I have some screenshots, but not many." He deleted everything very well. I could barely recover them from a backup. "Send them to me. Are you sure you want to see them?" "Yes." A few minutes later, several screenshots of a conversation appeared on my phone. Explicit conversations, pet names, and a photo of a woman smiling. I stared at the photo in silence. I felt neither anger nor sadness, just a deep sense of liberation. This marriage had been dead for a long time. I was just refusing to see it. "David," I wrote, "can this evidence be used in a trial? I'll need some time to organize them." "Don't worry. Take your time." I put the phone down and went to the window. The city's nightscape shone like a sea of stars. Under each of those lights, there would be a story. My story had just turned its darkest page. Tomorrow, the restraining order would be issued. Tomorrow, I would formally file the divorce petition against Jake. The restraining order became effective the next day at 9 a.m. Attorney Shapiro brought me the documents in person with a victorious smile. "The court granted it immediately upon seeing the evidence you presented. From now on, Jake cannot come within 500 yards of you, nor can he call or text you. He also cannot contact you through third parties." "And how did he react?" "He was furious," the lawyer said. "But his lawyer probably calmed him down. If he violates the order, he could be arrested." I put the documents away. "The divorce petition has already been filed." The lawyer handed me more documents. "This is a copy of the petition. I have requested ownership of the condo, the company shares, and compensation for emotional distress. I have argued that he is the at-fault spouse based on the threats to your safety, to request a divorce without division of assets." I skimmed the thick petition. Each page was filled with evidence: bank statements, project documents, the recording, the screenshots of the conversations. "What are our chances of winning?" "Very high," the lawyer said confidently. "But it will be a tough battle. The Miller family won't give up easily." "I know." I closed the documents. "They've also started to counterattack." Just as I finished the sentence, my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "Ellie, you bitch. Do you really think you're going to win with this? You'll see." I took a screenshot. saved it, and blocked the number. Him again? The lawyer frowned. Or someone he sent. I put the phone on the table. Kate, I have an idea. What is it? I want to go public with this. The lawyer was surprised. Really? If you make a family matter public, it could also harm you. I know, I said calmly, but I don't want to fight them in the dark anymore. I want everyone to know what kind of people the Miller family and Jake are. The lawyer was silent for a moment, then nodded. All right, I support you, but we have to maintain certain boundaries. No emotional accusations, just facts. Yes, understood. That afternoon, I contacted a college classmate, Anna. She was now an investigative journalist at a major news outlet. Ellie, Anna was very surprised to get my call. Long time no see. Anna, I need to ask you for a favor, I said without preamble. After listening to my story, Anna was silent for a long time. Ellie, she finally said, do you really want to go this far? Yes, I'm prepared. All right. Anna's voice became firm. I'll do the interview, but let's do it right. Solid evidence and a clear legal basis. I have everything. We met in the conference room of Sophia's company. Anna came with a camera and a recorder. The interview lasted 2 hours. I started with my marriage 5 years ago, my resignation from my job, my dedication to the Miller family, the wait in the freezing wind, my mother-in-law's pills, Jake's threats, and his 6-month affair. I told her everything. I didn't cry or get angry. I simply recounted the facts calmly. But at the end of the story, Anna's eyes were red. Ellie, she asked as she turned off the recorder, can I use this evidence? Yes, you can use it. I handed her the envelope I had prepared. Bank statements, conversation screenshots, the recording, it's all here. Also, a copy of the restraining order and the divorce petition. Anna skimmed the documents, her face growing more serious. This isn't just a family dispute. It's a case that could involve threats, extortion, and maybe even financial crimes. That's why it needs to be made public, I said. It's not for revenge. It's to protect myself and to show other women in similar situations that we can also defend ourselves. Anna took my hand. Ellie, don't worry. I'll write this article properly, without sensationalism or bias, just the facts. Thank you. After the interview, Anna spent the night writing the article. She said it would be published the next morning. That night, at Sophia's house, I barely slept. At 3 a.m., my phone lit up. It was David Vance. They know what? That you did an interview, David said. Jake has lost it. He's calling everyone to try to stop the article. Will he be able to stop it? I don't know. He has some media contacts, too. I hesitated for a moment and sent a message to Anna. Anna, Jake might try to stop the article. Be careful. A few minutes later, I received Anna's reply. Don't worry, it's already been approved by the editor-in-chief. It's the front page story tomorrow. The next morning, at 7 a.m. sharp, the article was published on schedule. The headline was not sensational. Asterisk, 5 years of dedication, repaid with a wait in the cold, one woman's fight for her divorce. Asterisk. But the content was solid, and the evidence was irrefutable, especially the content of the screenshots and the recording, which was shocking. 30 minutes after publication, my phone started blowing up. Old colleagues, clients, friends, even relatives I hadn't spoken to in years called me. I didn't answer and sent a group message. Thank you for your concern. I'm fine. At 10 a.m., Anna called me, her voice excited. Ellie, the article is a hit. It already has over 1 million views. It's the 3rd trending topic in real time. I opened a news portal. Indeed, the related terms were at the top. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive, and many people shared similar experiences. Jake is finished, Anna said. With this public opinion, he won't dare to do anything. I hope so. But I knew the Miller family wouldn't give up so easily. Sure enough, at 10:30, Attorney Shapiro called. Her voice was urgent. Ellie, Jake's lawyer called me. They say they're going to sue you for defamation and invasion of privacy. Let them sue, I said. I've only told the truth, and I have all the evidence, and they're going to countersue. They allege that you mishandled assets during the marriage and that you're mentally unstable and incapable of managing your finances. Me? I smiled coldly. Then I'll see them in court. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started organizing more evidence. If I had decided to fight, I had to go all the way. At 12 p.m., I received an unexpected call. It was my father-in-law, Arthur Miller. For 5 years, my father-in-law had been relatively polite to me, but that was it. We had barely had any deep conversations. Arthur, I called him by his first name. Ellie. Arthur's voice sounded very tired. I saw the article. I waited for him to continue. If we've reached this point, it's because I haven't managed this family well. He sighed. Jake was wrong, and so was his mother. I apologize on their behalf. I accept your apology, I said, but this can't be solved with an apology. I know. Arthur was silent for a moment. Ellie, can we meet alone to talk this through? I hesitated. Don't worry. I'm not going to force you to do anything, Arthur said. I just think the Miller family owes you a formal apology. I finally agreed. We met in a private room at a quiet tea house. Arthur looked much more gaunt than the last time I saw him, with dark circles under his eyes. Sit down. The tea here is very good. He poured me a cup. I sat down but didn't touch the cup of tea. Ellie. Arthur looked at me. These last 5 years, you've suffered a lot. You knew, didn't you? A little, but I didn't pay it much mind. He smiled bitterly. I thought conflicts between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law were normal and that they would eventually resolve themselves. I failed to see it from your perspective. I said nothing. Is everything in the article true? He asked. Did Jake really threaten you and have an affair? The evidence is in the article, I said. If you don't believe me, I can show you the originals. Arthur gestured with a pained hand. It's not that I don't believe you. It's just, I never imagined my son had changed so much. He took a sip of tea. His hands were shaking. His mother and I have been married for 35 years. She's always had a bad temper, but I've always given in. Jake grew up watching how his mother treated me, so maybe he thought that was the normal way for a marriage to be. That's no excuse. I know. Arthur put down his cup. Ellie, I didn't come here today to defend anyone, only to tell you that the Miller family is in your debt. What do you want in return? I'll do whatever is in my power to help you. I was surprised. Do you support my getting a divorce? I support it, Arthur said firmly. Continuing this marriage will only destroy you. The divorce will be the best thing for you and for Jake. Looking at this old man, I suddenly felt a pang in my heart. For 5 years, he had been the only warmth I had felt in the Miller family, even if that warmth was as faint as the winter sun. Arthur, I said for the first time with sincerity, thank you. Don't thank me. I don't deserve it. Arthur took an envelope out of his briefcase. Take this. I opened it. It was a stock transfer agreement. Arthur was giving me 10% of the company's shares that were in his name. This is what you deserve, Arthur said. More than half of the company's growth is thanks to you. 10% is very little, but it's the best I can do. I looked at the document with mixed feelings. Why are you doing this? Because I am Jake's father and the head of this family. Arthur stood up. I raised my son poorly and managed my home poorly. It's my responsibility. These shares are my small compensation and my support for you. He walked to the door and stopped. Ellie, I will convince Jake to agree to the divorce, but be careful with his mother. That woman will not give up easily. I know. After Arthur left, I stayed in the private room alone for a long time. 10% of the shares at market value would be at least $3 million. If added to the 30% I was originally asking for, I would have 40%. With that stake, I would have a voice in the company. But more important than that was having Arthur's support. That was worth more than any money. My phone vibrated. It was Attorney Shapiro. Ellie, Jake's lawyer has withdrawn the lawsuit. Which one? Yes, the defamation and the countersuit. All withdrawn. The lawyer's voice sounded excited. And they've proposed a new agreement. What are they proposing? The condo for you, 20% of the company's shares, and $2 million in cash, the lawyer said, in exchange for you retracting the article and not doing any more interviews. I laughed. Arthur had made his move. Tell them, I said, that I will not retract the article and I will continue to do interviews, but I am willing to negotiate the terms. The condo for me, 30% of the shares, and $3 million in cash. That's my bottom line. Do you think they'll accept? They will, I said confidently, because it's not Jake's will, but his father's. Sure enough, an hour later, the lawyer called me back. Her voice was trembling with disbelief. They accepted, Ellie. They accepted. I wasn't very surprised. When do we sign? Tomorrow morning at my office. All right. After hanging up, I left the tea house. The sun was warm. I took out my phone and sent a message to Anna. Anna, thank you, but there's no need to retract the article, and I will continue with follow-up interviews. I want to show everyone that women have the right to say no in a marriage. Anna replied immediately. Ellie, I'm proud of you. I put my phone away and walked down the busy street. After 5 years, for the first time, I felt so light. Tomorrow, when I signed the agreement, my marriage to Jake would officially end. Tomorrow, I would get back everything that was mine. The conference room at the lawyer's office was filled with a suffocating silence. On one side of the long table were Attorney Shapiro and I, on the other, Jake, his lawyer, and my mother-in-law, Carol. Arthur had not come. According to the lawyer, he had called last night saying he wasn't feeling well and was delegating everything to his lawyer. I knew it was because he didn't want to witness his son's failure. Let's begin, said Attorney Shapiro, sliding a copy of the agreement across the table. Jake's lawyer was a middle-aged, thin man named Mr. Perez. He skimmed the documents with an impassive face. Jake kept looking at me. His eyes were a mix of anger, resentment, and a faint plea. My mother-in-law, Carol, from the beginning, kept muttering insults under her breath. Ungrateful. Viper, Mrs. Carol Miller, the lawyer interrupted calmly. If you do not remain silent, I will have to ask you to leave the room. My mother-in-law's eyes widened, and she tried to say something, but Jake squeezed her hand. Mom, please. My mother-in-law reluctantly fell silent, but the look she gave me was like a knife. Mr. Perez quickly reviewed the agreement, occasionally marking something with a pen. 10 minutes later, he looked up. Miss Hayes, regarding the ownership of the condo, we need to see the original sales contract and the mortgage receipts. Here they are. My lawyer handed him a folder. Mr. Perez meticulously reviewed them, and Jake also leaned over to look. Upon confirming that the down payment and the mortgage payments for the last 5 years had come from my personal account, his face hardened even more. This part is in order, Mr. Perez said, closing the folder. But 30% of the company's shares is excessive. The Miller family business is a family-owned business, and although Miss Hayes participated in its management after getting married, it was only as Mr. Perez, I interrupted him. I have a performance report that proves how much I contributed to the company over the last 5 years. Would you like me to show it to you, or would you prefer I also pass it on to the press? Mr. Perez's expression hardened for a moment. Jake looked up sharply. Ellie, do you really have to take it this far? This far? I looked at him. Compared to you hiring a detective to follow me and take photos to blackmail me, who's gone too far? My mother-in-law gasped and turned to her son. Jake, did you really, Mom? Jake's face turned beet red. An awkward silence filled the room. Mr. Perez cleared his throat. All right, we also accept the issue of the shares, but $3 million in cash is too much. The company's financial situation is not good at the moment. Then give it to me in shares. I didn't yield an inch. Let's go up to 35% of the shares and lower the cash to $1 million. Mr. Perez looked at Jake. He gritted his teeth and finally nodded. And finally, one more thing, said Attorney Shapiro. We demand a public apology from Mrs. Carol Miller for the defamatory statements made in the media against Miss Hayes. What? My mother-in-law jumped to her feet. Me? Apologize to times her asterisk? Not in a million years. Mom. Jake's voice was almost a plea. Please, just this once. Please. No. My mother-in-law's shout echoed in the room. I've raised you for over 30 years, and now for that woman, you ask me to apologize? Jake, have you no shame? The color drained from Jake's face. He clenched his fists. Seeing the scene, I felt more sadness than satisfaction. This was the Miller family, a family dominated for decades by the matriarch's authoritarianism. The father was silent, the son obeyed, and the daughter did as she pleased. And I, as the outsider who once tried to change this family, ended up being the victim of their conflicts. "Mom," Jake's voice suddenly calmed, "if you don't apologize, I'm leaving home. From now on, I won't care about your affairs anymore." My mother-in-law froze. She looked at her son in disbelief. "What did you say?" "You heard me," Jake said, articulating each word. "Either you apologize, or I leave. Choose." A deathly silence fell over the room. The color of my mother-in-law's face changed several times, and finally, she slumped into her chair like a deflated balloon. "All right, I'll apologize." Her voice sounded as if she were grinding her teeth. "But only with a statement in the newspaper. I won't do it in person." "No problem," said Attorney Shapiro. "We will draft the apology. You will only have to sign it." For the next hour, the lawyers from both sides reviewed the agreement point by point, and I signed on the corresponding line, *Ellie Hayes*, a name that sounded strong. From today, this name belonged only to me. After signing, Mr. Perez collected the documents. Copies will be delivered to each party within a week, and the final divorce decree will take about a month, but the division of assets is effective as of today. As I was about to get up, Jake called my name. "Ellie." I turned around. He stood up and approached me. His lips moved several times, and finally, he uttered one word: "Sorry." After 5 years, for the first time, I heard a sincere apology from him, but it was too late. "Take care," I said, and turned away. As I left the lawyer's office, the sun was blinding. I put on my sunglasses, and as I was about to hail a cab, my phone rang. It was David Vance. "Ellie, have you signed the agreement?" "How do you know?" From Jake's social media profile, David said, "Post. It's all over." And the background photo is the law office building. I raised an eyebrow and opened my social media. Sure enough, Jake's profile picture had changed. There was no text, just a solitary period. Below it, there were already many comments, mostly from relatives and friends of the Miller family. Some were encouraging him, others were criticizing me, others were surprised. I didn't click on any of them and scrolled past. "Ellie," David's voice was hesitant. "I don't know if I should say this, but Jake's mistress is pregnant." I froze. "About 3 months along," David continued. "She went for a checkup at the hospital yesterday, and it seems Jake was with her. A friend of mine who works at that hospital saw them by chance. 3 months. When I was running around for my mother-in-law's pills, when he was planning to blackmail me with a detective, when in the library coffee shop he was asking me for one last chance. That woman was already pregnant with his child." I suddenly burst out laughing. "Ellie, are you okay?" "I'm fine." I wiped away the tear of laughter that had escaped. "Thanks for telling me. You're not angry?" "Why would I be?" I replied. This only proves how right my decision was to leave him. After hanging up, I didn't immediately hail a cab and sat on a bench on the street. Pregnant. Even better. That way, he wouldn't bother me anymore. My mother-in-law, with a new daughter-in-law to lecture and a grandchild to expect, would also be busy. With this, the last tie that bound me to the Miller family had been completely severed. The phone rang again. This time it was Sophia. "How did it go? Did you sign?" "Yes, I signed," I said. "The condo is mine, 35% of the company's shares, and $1 million in cash." On the other end of the line, there was a shriek. "Incredible! Ellie, you're amazing! We have to celebrate tonight. I've reserved a table at a restaurant. I've called all our old friends, so you have to come." "All right." "Oh, by the way," Sophia lowered her voice, "I just found out that Jake's mistress, that bastard, is pregnant. Did you know?" "I just found out." "What a scumbag," Sophia swore, then added, "Well, even better. That way, he won't dare to bother you anymore." "My thoughts exactly. See you later. Dress up." After hanging up, I finally hailed a cab. My destination was neither Sophia's house nor my small studio. It was my home, the home where I had lived with Jake and which was now entirely mine. The taxi stopped at the entrance of the complex. I swiped my keycard and went in. The same scenery, the same building, the same elevator. But when I reached the door of my home, I stopped. The door was open, and inside I could hear the sounds of moving. When I entered, I saw several movers carrying out furniture. The living room was half empty. The TV stand, the sofa, the coffee table, the bookshelf, all gone. Jake came out of the bedroom carrying a box. When he saw me, he also stopped. "What are you doing here?" "It's my house," I said. "Can I come?" He put the box down. His expression was awkward. "I just came to get my things. Since we signed the agreement today, I thought it was best to move out as soon as possible." I looked at the house I had invested 5 years of my life in. Now it was strange, empty. "Take everything," I said. "Clear everything out. Don't leave anything behind." Jake didn't move, just looked at me. "Ellie, so this is really how it ends. You wanted it this way," I said calmly. "Not me." He lowered his head. "I know." The movers continued to carry things out. No one spoke. In the air, there were only footsteps and the sound of objects clashing. "They told me that woman is pregnant." "Did you know?" I asked suddenly. Jake looked up sharply. His face turned white as a sheet. "Cut and never, buddy." "It doesn't matter how I know," I said. "What matters is that you're going to be a father. Congratulations." "Ellie, you don't need to explain anything to me," I interrupted him. "We're nothing anymore. Your business is none of my concern." He opened his mouth, but said nothing. Looking at this man I had once loved, I felt that even the last shred of feeling I had for him was vanishing. "Oh, by the way, I took a key out of my purse. This is the key to the new lock. When you're done moving everything out, leave it with the doorman." He took the key with trembling hands. "Take care," I said and turned around. "Ellie," he called after me. I didn't turn back. "I'm sorry." His voice was choked. "Really, I'm sorry." I stopped but didn't turn around. "Jake," I said, "I accept your apology, but from today, we are completely over." As I left the building, the sun was shining brightly. I took out my phone and sent a message to Sophia. "Sophia, I need to ask you for a favor." "What is it?" "I want to sell this condo." "What? Why?" "You just got it back." "There are too many bad memories here," I wrote. "I want to start fresh, in a completely new place." Sophia was silent for a moment, then replied, "All right, I'll talk to the real estate agent. And what kind of place should I look for?" "Something smaller, near your house," I said. "With lots of light, a home office, and my own space. Leave it to me." I put my phone away and took a deep breath. The air was fresh. It smelled of early spring. Winter was finally over. From now on, I would be very busy. Selling the condo, buying a new one, decorating the office, starting new projects. But I didn't mind. This time, it was an occupation for myself. I stopped at the entrance of the complex and looked at the building one last time. A month later, standing on the terrace of my new home, I watched the cherry blossoms begin to bloom in the garden. The house wasn't large, 850 square feet, 2 bedrooms and a living room, but every corner was entirely mine. Sunlight poured through the large windows, illuminating and warming the entire living room. In the office, there was a new bookshelf, filled with the books I had been collecting over the last month. "What do you think? Do you like it?" Sophia came out of the kitchen with 2 cups of coffee. "I love it." I took the coffee and said it from the heart. "Thank you, Sophia." For the past month, she had practically been my personal manager. She sold the old condo, bought the new one, decorated it, and even chose the design sketches for the office interior. "Oh, it's nothing." Sophia leaned on the terrace railing. "But seriously, Ellie, you've changed a lot in a month." "I have?" She looked at me seriously. "Your gaze is different. Before, you were always on the defensive, but now you're very strong." I smiled without denying it. A lot had happened in the last month. The divorce decree became final. It was easier than expected. The 10% of the shares Arthur had given me was decisive. With the support of the family patriarch, The rest of the relatives didn't dare say anything more. My mother-in-law Carol's apology was published in the newspaper. You could tell it was written reluctantly, but at least there was an official record. I sold the condo where I had lived with Jake, and with the money from the divorce settlement, I bought this house, paid in full, with no mortgage, my real home. The interior design of the studio was also finished, and tomorrow it would officially open. Mr. Davis and Mr. Peterson sent flower wreaths for the inauguration, and other clients sent congratulatory messages. Everything was going smoothly. "Oh, by the way," Sophia said as if she had just remembered, "did you hear? There's been some drama in the Miller family." I raised an eyebrow. "What happened?" "Jake, that bastard. The mistress he was with, she was pregnant, right? Well, a few days ago, she had a miscarriage." Sophia lowered her voice. "They say it was because of the stress, because Mrs. Miller was on her case every day." I was stunned for a moment. "I didn't expect something like that. Now the Miller family is a mess," Sophia continued. "Jake blames his mother, Mrs. Miller says it's because the other woman was bad luck, and the other one wants to break up. A total disaster." I drank my coffee in silence. "Don't tell me you feel sorry for them," Sophia looked at me. "No," I said, "but I'm not happy about it either. Their business has nothing to do with me anymore." Sophia nodded. "I'm glad you think that way. By the way, your studio opens tomorrow. Are you really not having an opening party?" "No, I prefer to start quietly." My phone rang. It was Attorney Shapiro. "Ellie, I have to tell you something." Her voice was a bit grim. "Yes, go ahead. Jake wants to see you." I frowned. "Why?" "He says he wants to apologize to you in person and that he has something important to tell you." I was silent for a few seconds. "I don't think it's necessary for us to meet." "That's what I told him," the lawyer said. "But he's very insistent. He says if you don't agree, he'll wait until you do." "Then let him wait." "Ellie," the lawyer hesitated for a moment, "I think it would be good for you to meet. There are things that need to be closed face to face to be able to let them go completely." With the phone in my hand, I looked at the cherry blossom petals falling outside the window. "All right. I'll choose the time and place." I chose a coffee shop next to a playground as our meeting place, a place with lots of people, safe. Jake arrived before the agreed time. I hadn't seen him in a month, and he looked very gaunt. He had dark circles under his eyes and hadn't shaved. There was nothing left of his former neat appearance. "Ellie," he stood up. His voice was hoarse. I nodded and sat opposite him. "What would you like to drink?" "I don't want anything," I said. "Just say what you have to say, and that's it." He smiled bitterly. "You're still the same." I didn't respond, just looked at him. Jake took a deep breath and, as if he were nervous, intertwined his hands on the table. "First, I want to formally apologize to you," he said, "for everything. For my mother, for me, everything." "Accepted," I said. "Anything else?" "Second," he took an envelope out of his briefcase. "My father asked me to give you this." I opened it. It was another stock transfer agreement. Arthur was giving me an additional 5% of the company's shares. "It's a personal gesture from my father. It has nothing to do with the divorce settlement," Jake said. "He says the debt the Miller family owes you can never be repaid in a lifetime." I looked at the document with mixed feelings. Third, Jake's voice became even more broken. "The baby, we lost it," I heard. He looked up sharply. "You don't hate me?" "I did hate you," I said sincerely. "But not anymore." Hating someone is very exhausting. I don't want to waste any more of my energy on you. Jake's expression was as if he had been punched. "Ellie, I know I have no right to say this, but," his voice cracked, "I am so sorry I didn't treat you well, that I let my mother mistreat you, for everything." I said nothing. If I could go back, I swear I wouldn't. There are no ifs," I interrupted him. "Jake, we can't go back. And even if we could, the result would be the same. The problem wasn't me, it was you and your family." He lowered his head, his shoulders shaking. "And that woman?" I asked. "Are you still together?" "We broke up," Jake smiled bitterly. "After losing the baby, we had a huge fight with my mother, and she left with the money. That's to be expected. And what are you going to do now? I don't know, he shook his head. Now you're the head of the company, so I guess I'll leave this city. Start over somewhere else. Looking at this man who was once my husband, I suddenly felt sorry for him. A man who had lived his whole life oppressed by an authoritarian mother, accustomed to evasion and compromise, and who in the end had lost everything. Jake, I said, it's time for you to be an adult. He looked at me with teary eyes. You're over 32. You can't keep blaming others for all your problems. Your mother's obsession, your weakness, your betrayal, they were all your decisions. Learn to take responsibility for your life. He was silent for a long time and finally nodded. Yes, you're right. Silence fell between us again. From the park outside, the laughter of children playing could be heard. Ellie, Jake said suddenly, can I ask you one last thing? Yes. If that day my mother hadn't forgotten to give you the address for the party, would we have been different? I thought for a moment and answered seriously. No. That freezing wind only made me see clearly a problem that already existed. Even if that hadn't happened, we would have ended up like this anyway. He closed his eyes. Finally, a tear rolled down his cheek. All right, he said. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for loving me once, and thank you for leaving me. I stood up. I think we've said everything we needed to say. Take care. Wait. He also stood up, taking a small box out of his pocket. Here, I'm returning this to you. I opened it. It was the wristwatch I had given him for our wedding. It wasn't expensive, but I had saved my salary for 3 months to buy it. I've always worn it, he said, but I don't think I should anymore. I took the box. All right, take care, Ellie. You too. I left the coffee shop without looking back. The sun was shining brightly. I walked along the park path, watching the children running, the elderly strolling, the couples out together. Life went on. My phone rang. It was the interior designer for the studio. Miss Hayes, the last pieces of furniture have arrived. Would you like to come and take a look? Yes. I'll be right there. After hanging up, I threw the watch box into a trash can. The past is the past. The studio was in a design center in the heart of the city. 500 square feet divided into a workspace, a meeting area, and a small conference room. The interior design was minimalist and modern, with a predominance of white and wood. Ma'am, look here. The designer pointed to a wall of shelves. As you requested, we've made it mobile. It will be very convenient for you to change the layout later. I nodded with satisfaction. Perfect. And this is the hidden projector. You can use it directly in meetings. Thank you so much for your work. You're welcome, the designer smiled. Your studio is impressive, ma'am. The location is excellent, and the interior design has great taste. I predict great success for you. Thank you for your kind words. After the designer left, I was alone in the empty studio. Tomorrow, I would officially start working under the name Ellie Hayes Studio. Tomorrow, a new life would truly begin. My phone rang again. It was Mr. Davis. Miss Hayes, tomorrow is the grand opening, right? I've sent a flower wreath with my assistant. Mr. Davis, you shouldn't have. Not at all, Mr. Davis said seriously. Miss Hayes, I believe in you. You are the most tenacious designer I have ever met. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Oh, and next month there's an industry conference. Would you like to participate? I can recommend you as a speaker. I was tempted. What's the theme? Women's entrepreneurship and innovation in design, Mr. Davis said. Your experience would be an excellent case study. I thought for a moment. Yes, I'll participate. Perfect. I'll send you the information. After hanging up, I went to the window. In the plaza outside, some young people were skateboarding. Their laughter reached me. 5 years ago, I was also like them. I had dreams, passion, and infinite possibilities. I had abandoned them for love, but now I had them back. No, I hadn't gotten them back. I was starting anew, with the experience, the wounds, and the growth of 5 years. My phone vibrated. It was a message from David Vance. Just saw the news. Ellie, congratulations on the studio opening. A friend's company needs a brand overhaul. Can I recommend you? I replied, Of course. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, and Jake left the city on a flight this afternoon. Seeing the message, I finally replied, I hope he does well too. Really? You don't hate him anymore? Hating is too exhausting, I wrote. I have more important things to do. Like what? Like making my studio successful, helping women like me, and most importantly, living my life well. David sent a smiling emoji. Ellie, you're incredible. Just call me Ellie, I said. Thank you so much for your help all this time. Ellie, he replied. I hope everything goes great for you from now on. I put my phone away and took one last look at the studio. Everything was perfect. I couldn't wait for tomorrow. 2 months after opening the studio, I received an official invitation to the industry conference, the Forum on Women's Entrepreneurship and Innovation in Design. I was the third speaker and had 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Sophia said, looking at the invitation. What are you going to say in 20 minutes? Your 5-year story could be a 30-episode series. I laughed and took the invitation. Well, I'll have to get to the point. And what's the point? I thought for a moment. A voice. Yes, I said, that all women have the right to have their own voice, and that voice deserves to be heard. Sophia was silent for a moment, then nodded firmly. Brilliant, Ellie. Show them what you're made of. For the next 2 weeks, I managed projects during the day and prepared my presentation at night. The studio had been non-stop since it opened. I hired 2 recent graduates as assistants. They were energetic, full of ideas, and most importantly, they looked at me with admiration. Boss, here's the market analysis report you asked for. One of the employees handed me the documents. I skimmed the report logical, with detailed data, and even their own analyses and proposals. Very well done, I praised them sincerely. After they left, I stood by the window, watching the hustle and bustle of the district. I hadn't felt this sense of fulfillment in a long time. This was life. My phone rang. It was Attorney Shapiro. Ellie, are you all right? Yes, go ahead. Jake's mother has been hospitalized. A cerebral hemorrhage, and her condition is serious. I gripped my phone tightly. The doctor says it's due to extreme stress, the lawyer continued. Jake has returned to Chicago and is at the hospital. He's telling me this because he hopes you'll go see her. Does he? No, the lawyer immediately denied. I just thought you should know. After all, she was once your mother-in-law. She was once my mother-in-law. We lived under the same roof for 5 years, and the fact that she was bedridden was not entirely unrelated to me. All right, thanks for letting me know. After hanging up, I sat in my chair, motionless, for a long time. Should I go? Out of decency, it seemed I should, but emotionally, I didn't want to. My phone rang again. It was Jake. I hesitated for a long time and finally answered, Hello, Ellie? Jake's voice sounded exhausted. My mother wants to see you. I said nothing. I know it's shameless of me to ask this, he said urgently, but the doctor says she doesn't have many days left. She keeps repeating your name, and what does she say while repeating my name? Jake was silent for a moment. That she's sorry. I closed my eyes. Ellie, please, I'm begging you. Jake's voice broke. Just for 10 minutes, so Mom can go in peace. With the phone in my hand, I looked out the window. The sky was blue and the clouds were white. Many memories came to mind. My mother-in-law's scrutinizing gaze the first time she saw me, the forced smile at the wedding, her voice complaining about breakfast every morning, and that afternoon in the freezing wind when she said, It slipped my mind to let you know. I hated her. I did hate her, but now I only felt indifference. Which hospital is she in? Jake, not expecting me to agree, was stunned for a few seconds, then answered urgently. Northwestern Memorial, 3rd floor, inpatient, room 307, room 307, the same room she was in for the pill incident. I'll go this afternoon, I said. I won't stay long. Yes, thank you, Ellie. Really, thank you. After hanging up, I sent a message to Sophia. Sophia, can you come with me to the hospital this afternoon? Sophia called me immediately. The hospital? Are you sick? It's not me, I said. Jake's mother is in critical condition from a cerebral hemorrhage. She says she wants to see me. There was silence on the other end of the line. Ellie, Sophia finally said, you don't have to go. I know. I thought about it for a long time and said, I have to go for myself. At 3 p.m., Sophia and I arrived on the 3rd floor of Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Jake was waiting by the elevator. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, but when he saw Sophia behind me, his expression hardened. Ellie, thank you for coming. Lead the way. Room 307 was filled with Miller family relatives. Their expressions upon seeing me were varied. My mother-in-law was lying in bed, connected to numerous tubes. I hadn't seen her in a month, and she was skeletal. Mom, Jake whispered in her ear. Ellie is here. My mother-in-law slowly opened her eyes. Her blurry gaze scanned the room and finally settled on me. Her lips moved weakly. Ellie. I approached the bed. Carol, I called her as before. A tear rolled down my mother-in-law's cheek. Forgive me. I was wrong. I said nothing. You were a good girl. And I threw away my luck. Her breathing quickened. An alarm sounded on the monitor. A nurse rushed in and made us step back. The patient can't be agitated. Please, everyone out. The relatives filed out of the room one by one, and in the end, only Sophia, Jake, myself, and Arthur, who had remained silent the whole time, were left. Ellie, Arthur spoke. Thank you for coming. I nodded. In the bed, my mother-in-law kept looking at me. Her lips silently repeated the word, sorry. I approached the bed and took her hand, the same hand that had once pointed at me, now cold, weak, and bony. Carol, I said, I forgive you. Her eyes widened and tears welled up. Rest in peace, I continued. I've left the past behind. She squeezed my hand with a strength that was incredible for someone on her deathbed. Then she looked at Jake with a pleading gaze. Jake came over and took her other hand. Mom, don't worry. Tears also fell from his eyes. I'll be okay. My mother-in-law's gaze shifted to Arthur, then back to me. She tried to say something, but ultimately no sound came out. The line on the monitor suddenly began to fluctuate wildly. We were ushered out of the room. The door closed, and inside, we could hear a great commotion. 30 minutes later, the doctor came out, removing his mask. We did everything we could. Cries erupted. Jake slumped into a chair, sobbing, and Arthur cried the tears of an old man. I, standing at the end of the hallway, watched the scene. My heart was surprisingly calm. Ellie, are you okay? Sophia took my hand. Yes, I'm fine. I was really fine. I felt neither sadness, nor resentment, nor even relief. Jake suddenly stood up and approached me. Ellie. His voice was broken. Mom passed away smiling. I nodded. Thank you. Really. Take care, I said and looked at Sophia. Let's go. When we left the hospital, it was already getting dark. Ellie, Sophia asked cautiously, did you really forgive her? Yes. Why? Because hating is too exhausting, I said, and she has already paid for her mistakes. Sophia nodded. When I got home, while having tea, I checked my phone. I had a message from David Vance. I heard you went to see my aunt. You're warmer than I thought. I replied, it's not that I'm warm, it's that I've let it all go. And it was true. The hatred, my past self, I had let it all go. A week later, the industry conference was held. And now let's welcome Miss Ellie Hayes. She gave up her career for her family, but she rose from frustration. And today she will tell us the story of how she found her voice. As I heard the applause, I took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about a voice. In my 20-minute presentation, I talked about 5 years of silence, the awakening in the freezing wind, and the courage to start over. When I finished, a warm applause erupted. During the Q&A session, a young woman stood up. Ma'am, if the people around us don't want to hear our voice, if they suppress it, what should we do? I saw in her my 5-year-ago self. Leave, I said. Leave the environment that ignores your voice. Leave the people who don't allow you to have a voice. But won't we feel lonely? You will feel lonely, I said sincerely. But loneliness is better than silence. Loneliness is temporary, but silence will kill your soul." Applause erupted again. After the event, many people gave me their business cards. When the crowd dispersed, I heard a voice behind me. "An excellent presentation." It was David Vance. "What are you doing here?" "I came to learn," he smiled. I didn't expect such an inspiring conference. He proposed we start a company together, a platform for legal and psychological counseling to fight against the unfair treatment of women. I accepted his proposal without hesitation. A few months later, the platform our team had created, called Phoenix, was officially launched. At the presentation, I took the microphone again. Today, we launch Phoenix. It is not a tool for confrontation or hatred. We simply want to say to all the women who are in silence, your voice matters, your life matters. You deserve to be respected and heard. After the presentation, several women from a shelter for victims of domestic violence called the Hope House approached me. "Did you really go through that?" a young woman asked. "Yes, I did," I said sincerely. "How did you overcome it?" I thought for a moment. One day, I waited for 2 hours in a freezing wind for an address that would never come. In that moment, I realized that if I didn't take care of myself, no one would. The girl's eyes reddened. I took her hand. "So the first step is to start taking care of yourself." On the way home, I received a call from Arthur. "Ellie, I heard you've started a very meaningful project. I'm proud of you." Those words moved me. "Thank you, Arthur." After hanging up, I stopped below my building and looked at the night sky. The stars were shining brightly. I remembered that snowy day 5 years ago, the wait in the freezing wind, and the moment I had the courage to start over. I opened the door to my home, and a warm light greeted me. This was my home, my life, my voice. I turned on my computer. On the screen, the logo of Phoenix, a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis, shone. On its wings, 2 words were engraved in small letters: freedom. Yes, it wasn't just physical freedom, but the freedom of the soul to say no, to leave, and to be reborn. The sky in the east was beginning to lighten. A new day, a reborn day, was beginning. Ellie's voice, now alongside many others, was moving toward the light.